So you've been to a few track days. Maybe you're doing time trials like I am. But what comes next? What's the next level that you can go to when you're ready to take that step into wheel-to-wheel racing? Today I want to talk about a few exciting but maybe lesser known opportunities in the world of grassroots and entry-level racing. These are real racing series that offer competitive opportunities based on your budget. Let's dive in. Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about taking those first steps into real-world racing, wheel-to-wheel racing. Now, as many people know, there's no real definitive way to get into motorsports. There isn't like a clear-cut path. There's so many different ways that people get into it. Some of it's based on talent, some of it's based on money. A lot of it's based on money, actually. If there was to be like a general ladder, general steps that you can take to get into real-world or wheel-to-wheel racing, it would look something like this. It would probably start off with track days. Track days are a great opportunity that allow you to take your own car, your road car, out onto a racetrack. Usually you're accompanied by an instructor who's in the car with you. So this presents an incredible opportunity for you to learn driving dynamics, and that is incredibly important. You know, the simulator is great. The simulator is definitely a great place to develop the racing dynamics platform. But when it comes to being able to feel the car, know what it's doing, and how to react to it accordingly, you just don't get that from a sim. Unless you're spending like 30, 40, 50 plus grand on a simulator. In that case, just get a real car, man. What are you doing? With track days being kind of the baseline, you've gotten your foot into the door, you've gotten yourself out on track, and you're ready to take that next step. A good next step is what I'm currently doing, time trials. Time trials is a good way to get into competitive motorsport. So it's not racing per se, you're racing the clock. You're not out there racing wheel to wheel with other cars. You're racing the clock, you're trying to set the fastest lap time out there. And it's a good way for you to really start hustling the car. And when I say hustling, I mean it's a lot different than you would be hustling on a track day. You can't win a track day. If anyone tells you different, then go to a different track. But you can win time trials. Time trials are a great way, like I said, to learn how to hustle your car in a competitive environment, but also it just gets you used to being on a paddock during a race weekend or something along those lines. Especially if you're competing at SCCA or NASA, those are great places to just be. Talk to different drivers, talk to the racers, and be able to get your foot in the door and see the other opportunities that are out there. The logical next step after track days is club racing. This could be you going out and buying a race car, someone else's race car that's already pre-built, or taking your time trial car and further developing it into a race car. Just caging it, putting all the necessary safety equipment into it, and then finding a class in SCCA or NASA or whatever your officiating body is, whatever you have a preference for, and then sending it out on a racetrack. If sprint racing with clubs really isn't your thing, then there's endurance racing. Endurance racing is great because it's a great way for you to get a bunch of your friends together that you've made along the way and start working on that car together and take it and go racing together. Man, honestly, it doesn't get much better than that. Going and racing with your friends in a competitive environment, but it's a great way to get a lot of experience doing driver swaps and just getting the feel of what an endurance race actually feels like. It's a really incredible experience. Regarding series that you can race in, you can run the full gamut. I mean, you can start off at the bare bottom, which is kind of the 24 hours of lemons. I mean, you see some crazy cars on those things. Take the next step up, and then there's this Champ Car series. You want to take a step up from that, then there's WRL, or the World Racing League. WRL is basically like a baby IMSA nowadays. So you're out there racing GT4 cars and LMP4s, freaking prototypes out there, and there's spec Miatas running around at the same time. Regardless of whatever category you choose in endurance racing, the field sizes are enormous at some of these races. It's a really good opportunity to get wheel-to-wheel racing experience in a multi-class racing environment. But beyond the typical club route, the SCCA and the NASA, there are a few compelling options that are really starting to pick up some traction. The first one I wanted to talk about is a brand new series called the Mustang Cup. The Mustang Cup is really aimed at grassroots racing. It's an entry-level series that's run by USAC, and they race a spec car. It's the Mustang Dark Horse R. The Mustang Dark Horse R is a purpose-built race car from Ford Performance. Although it's heavily based on its road-going counterpart, the Dark Horse, it was never a Dark Horse turned into a race car. So this comes from the factory, caged, ready to go. The great thing about the Dark Horse R, no ABS. Wait. It does have ABS, I apologize. No traction control, no paddle shift. It's an old school H-pattern shifter, and to me that's the best way to learn. As a matter of fact, the Mustang Cup just had its inaugural weekend recently down at NOLA in Louisiana. It didn't have a huge turnout. I think there was something around 9 cars, but at the same time, it's a growing series. It's its first race. It presents a good opportunity for people who are really wanting to maybe stick with like the stock car route, whether that's NASCAR based or TA2, or you're just a big fan like I am of the Australian Supercar series and you want to race a big car. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. One thing to add about the Cup series is that you can actually race that with 2 drivers. Because on the race weekends, there's a race on Saturday and then there's a race on Sunday. If you wanted to split the cost between 2 drivers, you can have 1 driver race on Saturday, 1 driver race on Sunday, and split those costs right down the middle. But the great thing, the really impressive thing, and props to Ford for setting this up the way that you did, you can take that same car, the Dark Horse R, and then move up to a professional series, the Mustang Challenge. The Mustang Challenge is actually a part of IMSA. With this series being more of a pro series, it's a step up from the grassroots entry-level way, and you're racing against some pretty heavy-hitting competitors. I think there are a few changes that you make to the car between the Cup series and the Challenge series, but it's the same car. The great thing about being a part of the Ford Performance line is that there's a progression with that. If you start doing really well in the Cup series or the Challenge series, there's opportunities to go in the GT4 or even GT3. As a matter of fact, Ford just recently announced that they have a young drivers program, and they already have drivers who have worked their way through the ranks and are in the GT3 car now. It's all about opportunities with that. There are a lot of pros with racing in those series, but the biggest con is the cost of the car. You're looking at spending upwards of $130,000, $140,000 for a race car.
Wrong again.
On that same note, but on a different side of the coin, there's another series that's really making its way into the US and making a lot of headway here in the US, and that is the Ginetta GT Academy. The Ginetta GT Academy is part of SVRA and Trans Am, so they race on those same weekends with them, although I don't think they run the full schedule now. The great thing about the Ginetta series is, again, purpose-built race car, but it's less like the stock car, big heavy race car that you see in the Mustang Cup. These are more sports car oriented, although they still don't have any ABS, they still don't have traction control, they don't have the H-pattern shifter like the Mustang does. They've got the flappy paddles, so it has more of a sports car vibe to it. They also don't have a V8. They actually run the same engine that I have in my Mustang, Ford's 3.7 liter V6 engine. That speaks a lot for me because it tells me that it's a very capable platform. I can forgive you if you live here in the US and you've never heard of Ginetta. If you live in Europe and you've never heard of Ginetta, what the heck's wrong with you, man? What are you even doing? Very much like the Mustang Cup series and the Mustang Challenge series, because the Ginetta GT Academy car, or the GTA car as it's referred to, is a spec car, it's a great learning platform. It's a great way to develop yourself as a driver while learning on a rock steady, tried and true platform, because they've been racing these things over in Europe for years, and they're just now making their way into the US. So it's a great way to learn car control. One particular driver who worked his way through the Ginetta series just so happens to be, at the time of this recording, the current Formula One championship leader, Lando Norris from McLaren. So it is definitely a capable platform and a great way to learn. So outside of the Mustang series, outside of the Ginetta series, there's still plenty of other series that you can get yourself into. There's the BMW Spec E30, and I believe there's a Spec E46 series. There's the Toyota GR Cup series, which really made some waves recently by having one of the guys from Dude Perfect on there, along with Keanu Reeves. If you wanted to race a bona fide prototype, there's the Radical Cup in North America, and I believe they race all over the world. And then, of course, there's the tried and true Spec Miata. I haven't really talked too much about Spec Miata because, to be honest, it's just not for everyone. I'm not saying anything negative about Spec Miata. I think it's a very, very capable series. As noted by the numbers, there's a ton of Spec Miata racers out there, and the series produces not only fantastic drivers, but awesome racing. It's great racing, but there are people out there who just don't want to drive a Miata. I used to have one, and I sold it to buy a camera lens. And another series that I think is incredibly capable and really teaches you car dynamics and just overall driving skills is Spec Racer Ford. I've had more than one professional racing driver tell me that if you can run up in the front in Spec Racer Ford, you can pretty much drive anything and run towards the front anywhere. But in saying that, there are so many different options. A lot of those options depend on where you live, the tracks that are available to you, the series that are available to you. For example, the Ginetta series that I mentioned, it's nowhere around here. It's mostly based on the East Coast right now. I'm in Texas. So the opportunity to race a GTA car is probably not going to be available for me unless I find someone locally who has one and they let me take it for a spin. Not literally. Personally, because I love the idea of driving Mustangs. I've had my Mustang since December of 2015. We're coming up on 10 years I've had this car. And it used to be my daily. I bought it from CarMax. And it was my daily driver until November of 2024. Now it's my track car. So there's a very deep connection with Mustangs in me. I can very well see myself going for something like the Mustang Cup series. That speaks to me. That's the kind of driving that I want to do. So it really comes down to, number one, it comes down to your budget. But number two, and this is really the important thing too, is like, what do you really want to drive? There are several paths to get there. Some of them are more expensive. Some of them are not as expensive, but are still expensive. And there's no getting around that though. The unfortunate side of modern racing is that it's very expensive to get into, even on the club level, even time trials. But there's so many other options out there. If you don't want to race full-size cars, there's karting, there's Legends cars, there's always the Rush series. The question you have to ask yourself is this: where do you want to go? What series do you see yourself getting involved with? And what are your thoughts on like the Mustang Cup and the Ginetta series? Do you think that's going to be a viable series in the future? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I know it's a bit of a different video, taking a break from the Mustang stuff. Actually, I'm waiting for parts to get shipped in. I'm going to be doing a lot of awesome upgrades on the Mustang, so stay tuned for future videos with that. If you found this video helpful or informative, I would greatly appreciate if you give me a big thumbs up. And if you want to follow along my racing adventures, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell, hit the notification bell, so you'll be notified whenever my videos go live. Be sure to tune in on Thursday nights at 7:30 Central Time. You can watch me race live on iRacing. I'm competing in the Australian Supercars Championship, and we're having a blast so far. I'd love to have you guys tag along. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. I would punch the camera, but this is a very nice camera, so bye!